Let's say on day one, somebody starts working at your company. I think it's safe and fair to say that on day one, nobody ever shows up to your company saying this place sucks. Doesn't happen, right? On day one, people are genuinely excited to be there. They want to make an impact. They want to know the tools that they're going to be using. Who are they going to be working with? They want to know all of this sort of stuff. They are excited to be there. And then something happens over time where gradually our satisfaction and engagement levels go a little bit down. And right around here, the company says, hey, it's time for our annual engagement survey. So we do the annual employee engagement survey, and we get a 62. And we freak out. And oftentimes what happens is we turn to HR and we say, hey guys, that 62 is not acceptable. We need like a 98 on there. Can you turn that 62 into a 98? And then a bunch of business leaders get together and they say, all right, who's got some ideas here? How do we boost employee engagement and happiness at the company? And somebody raises their hand and they say, oh, I got a brilliant idea. Why don't we do hot yoga on Tuesdays? Genius. And guess what happens? Temporarily.
Do you want to hear something really crazy? 96% of the people who watch videos on this channel are not subscribed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. It'll literally take you 1 second, and you'll get notified when more videos just like this one are available. Now, let's get back to the content.
The satisfaction, the happiness does go up. But then it goes back down. And then we do another engagement survey, and somebody else says, all right, we did the hot yoga thing. What else you got? And somebody says, what about free food on Friday or Soul Cycle on Mondays? And then, genius, we do that. And guess what? The scores go up. And this is what we see inside of most organizations. If you notice, you're not really going higher. You basically stay at the same point. You cycle up and down and up and down. It's like a yo-yo. Now, the really fascinating thing about this is that oftentimes when employees start working for organizations, when organizations say that they're investing in employee engagement, I always like to ask them why. Why are you doing this? And they say, well, because we want to empower our people. But your employees start off working at your company empowered already. What happens is through outdated technologies and rules and policies and bureaucracies, you disempower them. And then after you do that, you say you want to empower them again? Kind of weird, right? So that approach doesn't work. And the reason why focusing on these just perks doesn't work is because of a concept in psychology known as the hedonic treadmill. Some of you might be familiar with this concept. The hedonic treadmill is a theory in psychology which basically says that as humans, we're very good at adapting to stuff. Which means that if you show up to work one day and all of a sudden you have free food everywhere, that will be cool for a while. Might be cool for a couple months. And then what happens? You show up to work one day, and you say, well, yeah, of course there should be free food. I expect it. How could there not be free food? What else you got? And the organization says, oh, hot yoga, Soul Cycle. That's cool for a couple months too. And then you show up to work one day and you're like, I expect that. What else you got? And then what starts to happen over time is that you teach and you condition your employees to be part of your organization because of things that they get. Now imagine for a minute you're in a relationship with somebody just because you get nice stuff. What do you think happens one day when that person can no longer give you the nice stuff? You leave and you go elsewhere. And this is exactly what we see inside of organizations around the world. When you can no longer give them enough nice stuff, employees say, see you later, on to the next one. So you don't want to purely create an organization that's based on free food and perks and benefits and all these kind of lavish, crazy things that are out there. Because again, that conditions employees to be part of your company just because of things that they get, not because of value that they bring, not because of value that they get. So if this approach doesn't work, and we're starting to see a lot of challenges with this concept of employee engagement, what does work? What's next? There is a psychologist by the name of Thomas Gilovich, and he did some really cool research a couple years ago, and he looked at what happens to our satisfaction level if you invest in a physical good or if you invest in an experience. And what he found is that over time, if you invest in a physical good, your satisfaction starts to go down. But if you invest in an experience, over time, your satisfaction goes up. And this is what the world's leading organizations have figured out. How do we make it feel like when employees start working for us, they didn't just buy something, they didn't just transact with us, they signed up for an experience. So what does that actually mean, and what does that actually look like? Now, to try to understand employee experience, I studied 252 organizations around the world. I went through numerous case studies, articles, research reports. I conducted interviews. I did all sorts of stuff out there. And if employee engagement has basically become this idea of investing in perks and benefits to distract employees from the reality of what it's like to work there, employee experience has become this idea of changing the core workplace practices inside of your organization around your people. So changing the core workplace practices of your organization around your people. That's very different than just focusing on perks or benefits. So again, I mentioned I studied 252 organizations around the world. So from the 252 organizations that I looked at, the breakdown looked like this. Only 6% of organizations do an amazing job of investing in employee experience. And the 252 companies that I looked at were all the Fortune 100, all the Fortune 100 best places to work, Glassdoor's top 50 large best places to work, and then a couple others that I had a personal interest in. 6% of companies are doing an amazing job of investing in what is becoming known as employee experience. 20% of organizations I looked at and I'm like, how are you guys still in business? And interestingly enough, some of them are filing for bankruptcy and disappearing. Half of organizations are either doing nothing or they're doing just a little bit just to kind of squeak by. But the encouraging thing is that 23% of organizations are doing a very good job. So I mentioned 6% of organizations. Who are these organizations? These aren't organizations like a Riot Games. These are organizations like a LinkedIn, a Facebook, an Airbnb, some of the typical organizations that you might expect to find on that kind of a list. So this is what the breakdown looks like, meaning that there is a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot that we can do to create better experiences for our people.